bitter recognition that their assumptions were not just incorrect, they were humiliatingly far from the truth. Number 2. Their biggest mistake was assuming your delay meant you were pretending. They watched you move at your own pace and interpreted it as hesitation, doubt, or even fabrication. They assumed that because you weren't rushing to prove yourself, you must have been pretending to be someone you weren't. They judged every pause, every moment of quiet, as weakness or indecision, and in doing so, they underestimated the power of your timing. They didn't understand that some people operate according to a clock others can't read. Every delay, every period of observation, every silent move was strategic, a layering of preparation that they were blind to. Now, the irony is unbearable for them. That delay they mocked was never a pause. It was preparation. While they rushed, doubted, and judged, you were quietly building, learning, testing, and strengthening every part of yourself that needed to be unshakable. Your patience wasn't passivity. It was a deliberate calibration that allowed you to act when the moment was right, with precision and impact they couldn't anticipate. They feel humiliated because they mistook stillness for falseness, and the results now confront them with the undeniable truth. Their embarrassment is compounded by the fact that they were convinced they were ahead, that they had the advantage because they acted first, spoke first, or tried to claim influence before you did. Every assumption they made about your delay now feels foolish. The reality is, they mistook your silence for emptiness, not realizing that the quietest moments often contain the most power. They see now that while they were busy making judgments and plotting interference, you were constructing a life, a reputation, and a presence that could not be shaken by their skepticism or ridicule. The worst part for them is recognizing that their timing and impatience never gave them an advantage. You weren't pretending. You were exact, deliberate, and unstoppable. Their humiliation isn't about anything you did wrong. It's about the magnitude of their miscalculation. They assumed your delay meant you were small, weak, or fake. The truth is, your timing was always perfect, and now, in the aftermath of their misjudgment, the weight of that realization sits heavily on them, while you stand as evidence that patience, clarity, and self-awareness always triumph over their shallow assumptions. Number 3, they laughed when you declared your destiny, but didn't realize you were declaring their future apology. They heard you speak about your goals, your path, and your vision, and they laughed. They whispered behind your back, assumed you were exaggerating, and treated your declarations as entertainment rather than truth. They couldn't see that what you were doing wasn't just talking about yourself. You were setting the stage, quietly, for a reality they would one day have to reckon with. Every word they dismissed was a seed of undeniable proof, and every laugh they shared was a contract they unknowingly signed to eventually admit they were wrong. The humiliation they feel now comes not from your success alone, but from the irony of it. They mocked your claims without realizing that the life you described wasn't just a personal goal. It was a roadmap that would eventually force them to recognize the truth they ignored. They never imagined that the person they assumed was overreaching or naive would actually become the person they once doubted. And worse for them, the success didn't just validate you, it invalidated their disbelief, exposing their judgment, their envy, and their short-sightedness. They feel embarrassed because they now understand that the apologies they might offer one day aren't about you. They're about themselves, about the times they laughed, doubted, and underestimated you. Your destiny wasn't a challenge to them. It was a mirror reflecting how poorly they handled someone operating from integrity and vision. They assumed they were in control of the narrative, but it turns out that their role was smaller than they ever imagined, their criticism irrelevant, their laughter meaningless. The satisfaction for you comes from watching this unfold naturally. You didn't need to respond, prove, or retaliate. You simply moved forward, built quietly, and let life itself serve as the undeniable evidence of your words. They will now have to confront a truth that cannot be ignored. What they once laughed at is now undeniable, and their eventual recognition, whether they admit it or not, will carry the bitter weight of knowing they were wrong.